righty, well, hey, chaps and chappets, Game Chap and Birdie here.
Yes.
Yes, indeed, fellows, and I dare say we have here some rather interesting news for you about the rather hotly anticipated upcoming title, Xenoblade Chronicles X, coming soon to Wii U.
Most certainly, and we do indeed, and as you said, hotly anticipated. And it seems that this game most certainly is. There's a lot of excitement about its release, Xenoblade Chronicles X. So, what is this all about? Well, according to Wii U eShop in Japan,
Yes?
the game will run not at 1080p,
Uh-oh.
but at 720p.
At 720p?
Yes. Now,
Oh.
what does that mean? Well, exactly. Now, that's less than half the resolution of the current standard of 1080p.
That's right, of course. Now, the reason for that, fellows, if you do the maths, you have to multiply 1920 by 1080, you see, and when you work it out and then divide 720, I beg your pardon, multiply 720 by 480, and divide the two, you find out that actually 720p, which is what this game's going to run at, is less than half the resolution of 1080p. Now, of course, this will no doubt come as a surprise to many people, because in the trailers we've seen so far, the developers have been very much giving the impression of shiny graphics, large worlds, and generally just, wow, this game looks good, you know.
Well, most certainly, yes, indeed, and it's a very graphically important game, I think.
Impressive, and yes, I do
impressive, and I think the graphic, yes, as I said,
they are important, the visuals, that's
yes,
right.
Indeed.
Now, of course, what does 720p actually mean to you and I? Well, of course, this means that jaggies in the game will be more noticeable. Now, of course, what are exactly jaggies, old chap? Can you describe those?
Well, jaggies, yes. Now, we this is a term we use, jaggies, but maybe it's an industry term, we don't know.
Yes.
But it's on, if you can imagine the character standing there, just imagine all the chaps and chapettes out there, imagine the character standing, the Xenoblade character. On this, say, down the sides of the arms, if you look closely, you'll see little sort of, like little jaggies.
Squares.
Like serrations, or like the edge of a saw type of thing.
It's been slightly ripped, it looks like.
Yes, little ripped, and those sort of things, and that affects the way the whole game looks.
Yes,
in terms of graphical pleasantry to your eyes, as it were.
Indeed, and of course, the higher the resolution of the game, the fewer jaggies you have, and the smoother and more natural the graphics look. So therefore, unfortunately, fellows, what this is going to potentially mean is that Xenoblade Chronicles may not look as crisp as it could have otherwise done at 1080p, because it's only going to be running, according to the Wii U eShop in Japan, at 720p.
Well, exactly. Now, you see, now the thing is, a game that runs at 1080p, I believe, is Smash Brothers.
Super Smash Brothers,
yes,
that's
and
right.
Very, very crisp if you look at those graphics.
Very sharp and crisp graphics.
Yes. Now, Mario Kart also is, I believe, is that an upscale? I'm not sure.
I think that's 720 upscaled, actually, yes. Now, this is an interesting comparison, of course. The question is Xenoblade X going to upscale, like perhaps Mario Kart does, or will it just be 720p? Now,
right, can I just stop you there? For the chaps and chapettes listening, upscale, what do we mean when we say upscale?
Well, that means that literally you have the game running at 720p resolution and the console upscales it. In other words, it stretches the image, applies a few filters, and you've got, all of a sudden, hey presto, 1080p. Well, of course, it's not real 1080p.
Sort of.
It's actually just 720 that's pretending to be 1080. Now, there's not a vast difference between that and the full 1080p resolution, and you do have to have a rather large screen and be sitting at the right distance, etc., and so forth to see it.
Yes.
But if you have sharp eyes and you're looking for it, you can make out a difference, definitely.
Well, most certainly, yes, indeed. So it's a bit of a surprise because maybe they've done it for performance. Perhaps it's more demanding running at 1080p, for example.
Now, that's an interesting point, of course, Leos, and that is a very notable point, in fact, because in Super Smash Bros. On Wii U, when you're running that at 1080p, sometimes if you press pause and you zoom in on the characters and just move the screen around, you can see a noticeable bit of slowdown. It's getting a bit laggy there, just moving around those characters, and that may be to do with performance. Now, perhaps the Wii U just can't handle Xenoblade Chronicles X's large worlds and shiny graphics without taking the resolution down a notch. Or perhaps, if they did run it in 1080p, it would just suffer from constant slowdown all the time because it just can't handle that high of a resolution with that particular game.
Well, that's a good point. Yes, indeed. Is it because it just can't, the Wii U can't handle those large worlds and graphics, as you say? And of course, if that was the case, they certainly wouldn't want to tell you that, so they'd just put it in 720 and just walk off.
Yes.
See, that's the thing.
This is not the sort of thing they're shouting from the rooftops, old chap. This was hidden in the fine print on, I believe, the Wii U eShop purchase page. So in other words, they're going to just slip that in there as a small footnote, of course, at the last minute, because they don't want to cause necessarily that much attention to be brought to it. Now, it is a bit of a disappointment, I have to say, old chap. It's a slight setback for the game, but I have to also consider that many other successful games have also run at 720p, and people don't seem to have really minded all that much, to be honest.
Well, it's true, and I think we've got to ask ourselves and say, well, do we care? Do we care?
Well,
maybe, perhaps people do. I mean, you're 720 now. In today's day and age,
it's a bit dated.
Consoles, PlayStation 4s, etc., Xbox One, we really do. Dare we say we expect 1080p?
Well, that's just a
And we
strange
expect
thing,
it.
because of course on another console, the Xbox One, in many cases we've also had to put up with lower resolutions than we could have otherwise had. So there's been quite a lot of debate about the resolution issue recently, and now of course it comes home rather quickly here to Xenoblade Chronicles on a Nintendo platform.
Well, is it surprising? As I said just earlier on there, a game like this Xenoblade Chronicles X, it does rely an awful lot as well, of course, on its graphics, and that's an important point.
Yes.
The visuals, yes, to bring the people into the game and get them into it very much.
They're trying to make an impact on us with these trailers and say, well, this game is very impressive, you know.
Yes, indeed, yes.
But anyway, Fadeos, there you are. That is, of course, the point of the resolution. We can now tell you for almost certain it should run at 720p, barring some last-minute change, but there are a couple of good points here in the news as well, one of which relates to the online mode.
Most certainly, yes. Now, the game is going to support 4-player online questing.
Really?
Yes, which sounds rather fun.
Now that of course is a bit like the Monster Hunter questing system, where you can have up to 4 players in the same world going around completing the quests at hand. And I have to say, I've played Monster Hunter many times. That's a very fun way of doing it, an interesting approach, and it will be nice to have 4 players in the same room at the same time completing those quests out in those huge sprawling worlds. Lots of fun to be had, no doubt.
So you're working with someone else, so is that friends only, or do you just go online and pick anyone at all?
Well, if it's anything like Monster Hunter, it might be both randoms and friends, I should think, but we'll have to wait and see exactly how it works.
Well, it's an interesting game element, and I think a rather fun one, which does work in those type of games.
Oh yes, definitely.
Now, also up to 32 players can do that in an indirect online mode, apparently.
I see. Now, that's right. There's apparently going to be an indirect online mode where you can have 32 players in the same room supporting things like trading and possibly chat too.
Oh, so yes, I didn't mean questing there. I think I actually was pointing towards...
like a lobby, perhaps.
Well, yes, that's right.
That sort of thing.
So 4 players can quest,
yes,
as it were, but not 32.
No. You can't have 32, sadly, but you can have 32 perhaps in the lobby, as I say, with 4 players actually going out to do this quest.
So you can chat and do things and maybe,
trade.
As you say, trade your things, whatever you may have,
perhaps.
your weapons, guns or whatever, and of course then pop out there and get in an online quest as well.
In amongst it, that's right.
Now,
also in Japan, apparently, there's going to be a Wii U Xenoblade bundle that comes with various goodies like a poster, etc. and so forth. And also now, we can actually show you some nice box art for the Wii U game.
Ah, is this going to be... Is this us? We have this in
well,
North America,
this is the
in England?
Japanese art, as you can see, but it does look very impressive. And the chances are it may be very similar, if not identical to that, when it does come out over here in the West.
Ah, right. So this is the Japanese art.
We have,
said there.
yes, in the centre, a rather large mech or robot. And what was the name of those again, old chap? Are they... Blades, I think.
The Blades, that's it,
right.
yes, the Blades.
Beyond the logos, artificial destiny emancipator or something like that. Some
very clever, yes. But
acronym.
anyway, big robots that you can get in. Of course,
that's
we've got
right.
some characters over to the left there.
Yes, we can see here Elma on the left-hand
yes.
side, the red lady. We have the main character, who I believe is named Cross, and we have a sort of side character there, Rin, along with the small bouncy cartoony fellow. And his name escapes me, I have to say, but he's quite a notorious chap all the same.
Right, so they've given the effect there on the front of the boxes. We can see of this something out there. You can just anticipate what might be there.
Yes.
And it's all happening, and they're considering what they're going to do, etc.
That's right. And
so
of course,
I think it's good. It's good art.
It fits in well with the overall plot of the game, which, if you've seen the trailers, you may know they've crash-landed on a foreign planet after being shot down by aliens, and now they have to colonise the planet and basically explore it, find the survivors from the spaceship, etc. and so forth.
Okay, so that's the Wii U art. Do you think this will be the same for North America and Great Britain, that art?
Very possible. I mean, sometimes
change it?
there's minor changes occasionally between regions. They might choose to feature a character instead of the mech, but we'll have to wait and see how they turn out. It's quite appealing in any case, I have to say.
Well,
Quite appealing.
I think so, yes.
But anyway, Fadils, also on the 3DS side of things, we have some news there too, because as you may know, there's going to be a port of the original Xenoblade coming out on the 3DS, which is rather fun. Apparently, it will require the new Nintendo 3DS hardware to actually play that, because of the various upgrades like performance and camera controls and whatnot.
Yes.
Now, apparently, it's going to support amiibos.
Ah, yes, indeed. Apparently, it will. I think the Shulk amiibo also
Naturally.
on the 3DS. Of
I
course.
think that is the one it will support, actually. Yes, that's right, the Shulk amiibo. We don't exactly know how that's going to work, but it certainly will support that. And so if you like amiibos and that kind of thing, you can say you're really feeling it.
Yes, indeed. Oh, certainly. Yes, you certainly can. Yes.
Yes, it will be Shulk time very soon, I'm sure. And also, just a side note there on the 3DS, Super Smash Bros. Is going to support amiibos in a new update, and I think that's going to be tomorrow.
I thought Super Smash Bros. Already supported amiibos.
Ah, no, not yet, but very soon, in fact, possibly tomorrow, Freddos.
Well, so not the 3DS version doesn't then?
Not yet, but it will do very soon, of course, yes.
Okay, there we are. So amiibos on your 3DS, rather fun.
And I think the 3DS version of Xenoblade Chronicles is looking rather nice, perhaps not quite as shall we say, polished as the original, but it does look good, I'm sure, in 3D, and will no doubt be a treat for the many fans of the original game. A treat for them, that is. So, there you are, Freddos. We have some news there, of course, on the Wii U Xenoblade and the 3DS Xenoblade.
Yes.
And, of course, let's not forget we saw a rather interesting trailer promoting various aspects of Xenoblade Chronicles X quite recently, didn't we?
We most certainly did, yes indeed. Can we have a look at that?
I think we can, of course, Fidels, yes. The Xenoblade trailer, now, of course, we uploaded this with partial English subtitles recently, and it was quite an interesting insight into the sorts of things that will be going on into the game.
Most certainly, people are rather interested in that, yes.
You had, of course, an interesting cinematic opening there, where Elma opened a life pod that contained Cross, and, of course, she found that life pod, and basically rescued him from that stasis or sleep he was in.
Most certainly, yes indeed. Looks like they're, the only survivors, as it were.
Yes, the only survivors, of course, of the crash landing the ship had to make, but we also find out that she brought him back to a city called New Los Angeles. Now, that appears to be the central base of operations for the game, and there are many areas in that, like residential, commercial, industrial, the Blades area, etc., and so forth.
Yes, it's looking almost, I don't know, almost SimCity-ish, isn't it?
I think it's supposed to be, yes, that's right.
Yes, indeed, and that
like
adds some interest to the game, and it looks quite well-modelled towns and things like that.
Quite well done, I have to say. Of course, it's not entirely the same thing as Assassin's Creed because it's a futuristic city, as you can see there, but it does look very good, I have to say.
Most certainly, yes, indeed. Shaping up, looking rather good, indeed. The mech there, or something, whatever that is.
Robots and things.
Things.
This appears to be the United States ship that's crashed here, so perhaps somehow related to the USA, hence why they've called it New Los Angeles, I suppose.
Well, yes, it could be, yes, indeed. Quite enticing scenes there, interesting, makes you want to perhaps get in there and see what on earth's going on for yourself.
Yes, indeed, quite interesting and does invite exploration. Now, of course, that's not the only part of the game. There are blades, as we've discussed earlier, which are like mechs and robots. They are the they are the police and military forces of the game. And, of course, they will be used to defend the city and also to go on various conquesting adventures as you quest through the worlds. You can use things like mechs if you're a member of the Blades, you'll see.
Right, indeed. So you can get in those mechs, and for people that don't know, what are they actually defending the world from?
They aren't necessarily defending the world, it's more like their city they're defending, you see, because they've crash-landed and made this city on the new planet, as it were.
Yes, I see, yes, indeed.
So, now, one of the missions of the characters in the game will be to find the life pods that have broken off of the spaceship and go and recover the survivors trapped inside those pods.
Most certainly. So we've got some open world action there, of course.
Yes.
Where they're running about, and that always adds fun to these type of games and interest, of course. Looking at the open worlds there and what they've done there with the graphics and the styling, etc., looks rather interesting and rather well done, I think.
It looks very well done, and I dare say it does have similarities to games like Monster Hunter, whereby, of course, you have these large open world environments with huge creatures moving through them, but you don't necessarily always want to pick a fight with those creatures, because sometimes they can be way above your level.
Well, exactly, and indeed, and you have to make sure you're on the right level, or you had it, and you have to go back to the beginning.
You'll get knocked out, basically, or chased and killed. Not too handy, I suppose, but it seems to me also as if the Elma girl is going to be one of your party members. She can be seen running through many environments behind a cross there, so I suppose she must be one of the main characters.
Well, I think so. As we can see there, lots of different and interesting environments that they've put in there.
Yes.
We've got sort of wood, sort of jungle-looking environments, alien-almost-looking environments, and
snowy ones, lava ones, beach ones.
Yes, they're all there. So a lot of choice there. And
yes.
Things to look at.
That's right, and of course the overall emphasis of the game appears once again to be focused on exploration of large areas. There'll be a new navigation board that can guide you between areas, very handy. There's a new hopper camera that allows you to pull up and look around you, which is rather useful for exploring these large areas. And of course all this is rendered by the Wii U in very large open worlds. And for fast travel through those worlds, you can actually change into a robot, or get into a robot, who can change into a flying or driving version of himself. How about that, old chap?
Well, it's sort of Transformers style.
That is rather clever. It is Transformers. A bit of sort of, what do they call it, old boy? It's like a Gundam. The Japanese like their robots, don't they? They do like those.
There's a car, see? Straight into it. He just
can transform into a car or a plane, or not a plane, but a flying robot, and many other ways of getting around the terrain rather quickly. And it does look beautiful, even in 720p, I should think.
Well, yes, it does indeed. Yes, of course, how it looks on the console, we're not so sure. These are sort of the trailers they've put out.
Yes.
But yes, indeed, it does look rather fun to play, no doubt about it. And as we said earlier, there's a lot of anticipation around the game.
much anticipation, and rightfully so. It is shaping up to be a rather epic title on the Wii U, fellows. Despite the 720p, as I say, you are going to have online mode with 4 and 32 play options. There'll be the 3DS remake. Indeed, for Xenoblade fans, there's a lot to look forward to at this time, you know.
There most certainly is. It's a 3DS remake will be rather fun. Or, I mean, I don't know whether they're going to sell too many of those. Is that you have to buy that, is it? Or just is it downloadable?
I think you have to buy that. That's a full-price title,
right,
I think.
Okay, so
yes.
whether people are going to do that or just say, no, I just want to play the Wii one and get on with it, we'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to see. Well, there you go, fellows. In any case, this has been Game Chap and Buddy, bringing you the latest news on Xenoblade Chronicles X. Certainly, we're looking forward to it, and we'll play it, old chap.
Oh, we most certainly will, yes indeed. And of course, let us know what you think. Do you like what you see here? Are you anticipating the game? And also, what do you think about the 720p? Do you like that? Or do you think you don't care? Or think, hey, I want it to be 1080?
Well, indeed. It's certainly rather interesting, old chap. But there we are, fellows. Join us again, I say. We'll look forward to seeing you once more. Until then...